The fact that I'm able to make this video is still so unbelievable to me. The Detroit Pistons season was over at that halftime of Game 6 against the Orlando Magic. They were down 62-38. In what followed, and I'm sorry Magic fans, was the worst playoff, maybe not even playoffs, worst NBA collapse I have ever seen. And with all that media coverage, all they could talk about was the horrible collapse by the Magic, the terrible shooting by Paolo Banchero and Jalen Suggs, the awful coaching by Jamal Mosley, who was later fired, Cade Cunningham's fourth quarter heroics, and so on and so forth. There were so many headlines, but through all the noise, there was one real truth as to how the Pistons pulled off the most insane comeback in NBA playoffs history.
Paul Reed trying to get to the basket, lays it in, count that baby, and a foul.
He said yes, foul and the bucket.
Pistons inside for Paul Reed, grab, he scores.
That was a strong man move right there.
Now Herter comes to double, nice bounce inside for Paul Reed, great reverse glasser for Paul.
But very quickly, before we get in the rest of this video, if you guys enjoy this type of content, all things NBA, please make sure to hit that like button on this video. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to join my community, come on in, hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you. But with all that out of the way, let's talk hoops. The Detroit Pistons were on the verge of one of the craziest #1 seed playoff collapses I've ever seen in my 25 years on this earth. And again, being a Pistons fan, well, unfortunately, that was a pretty rough week and a half for me. I was genuinely depressed as the Pistons were down 3-1 against the Orlando Magic. And with all the luck in the stars, they saved me from utter disappointment, utter off-season depression, and they were able to pull off a Game 5 win at home to go still down 3-2, going into Game 6 at Orlando. Now let me take you into my mindset. I know, a scary place, my inner thoughts, but my whole thought process around this time was, if the Pistons can just squeeze one out in Orlando, they can come back home for Game 7, and I was 99% confident that the Pistons would be able to get the dub. But the real key was that Game 6 in Orlando. They needed to squeak that one out, and I felt like if they did, they had the series. Now, up until this point, it was pretty obvious. It was no secret of who would get the award for biggest playoff pooper of the series, and that was Jalen Duren. Jalen Duren took a huge step this year. He became an all-star selection, pretty much the second option behind Cade Cunningham on this Detroit Pistons team, and was a major reason why the Detroit Pistons won 60 games this year. But oh my God, this playoffs, you would have thought Jalen Duren was some G League scrub we had to pull up after 5 or 6 other players ahead of him broke their legs and were out for the rest of the season. All of a sudden, Jalen Duren looks slow on defense. It looks like he has cement in his shoes. He can't jump. He can't contest in the paint. He can't grab rebounds. He has the slipperiest butterfingers I've ever seen in my life. He looks atrocious in these playoffs. And Pistons fans equated the Pistons being down 3-1 against the Magic with Jalen Duren's struggles. He was the main scapegoat when it came to why the Pistons were down so bad in the series. But Game 6, I had some optimism. I knew the Pistons weren't just gonna lay down. You know, I thought maybe we could see a masterclass by Cade in a random game where Jalen Duren finally shows up. And by halftime of that game, I was going out on my patio balcony, looking up in the stars, wondering, what did I ever do to deserve this torture? Because at halftime of Game 6, Jalen Duren continued to look like garbage, and the Pistons were down 62-38. The Pistons stayed with them in the first quarter, but in the second quarter, it was a legitimate bloodbath. The Orlando Magic started hitting every single shot that they took, and they outscored the Pistons in that second quarter 35-12. The 1 seed Detroit Pistons, with their backs against the wall, were down by 24 coming out of halftime against the 8 seed Orlando Magic. Everybody started writing the Pistons off right then and there. I was on Reddit, I was scrolling, I was looking at the memes. It was awful for my mental health, but I wasn't gonna give up on this team. I am a die-hard Pistons fan, and I will watch them fight until the end. And thank God I didn't turn it off. And so here's where I get to talk about the main character of our story, Paul Reed, or more formerly known as B-Ball Paul. Now, B-Ball Paul is the third string center for the Detroit Pistons. He's in the rotation behind all-star Jalen Duren and backup center and elite rim protector Isaiah Stewart. The reason that B-Ball Paul is the third string center is not because B-Ball Paul isn't good enough, but it is because the center rotation for the Detroit Pistons is that elite. For this whole season, B-Ball Paul has been the guy that comes in either during garbage time or steps up when Beef Stew and Jalen Duren are out there throwing punches and getting suspended. But as a guy who literally watched every single Pistons game this season, I knew what we had in Paul Reed. Paul Reed continually would step up in whatever minutes he was able to scrape together game after game. And so desperate times call for desperate measures. And in the third quarter, JB Bickerstaff, the head coach of the Detroit Pistons, literally said, and just threw Paul Reed out there. He had nothing to lose. And I'm not going to lie, it was the best decision he ever could have made. Paul Reed checked into the game with about 5 minutes left in the third quarter. And the Pistons were still down quite a bit, but you could feel the tides turning at that point. And Paul Reed came in to do exactly what he needed to do. He wasn't expected to come in and provide a scoring burst or run the offense. He came in and did exactly what he has always done all season. Hustle his ass off. And you felt those effects immediately. The Pistons' rim defense, their rim protection, their interior defense immediately became elite. It became suffocating. Paolo Banchero couldn't get anything inside. The Orlando Magic shooting all of a sudden ran cold. But at the same time, it didn't just stop there. Paul Reed, B-Ball Paul, was grabbing every single rebound. He was hustling for every single ball, not only on the defensive end, even on the offensive end. The thing that I love about B-Ball Paul is his jump shot, his shooting form is kinda janky as hell, but all of a sudden he'll come out on offense and hit you with a step back mid-range jump shot or some post fadeaway or some reverse layup over the other team's center, and you're like, what the f-? But that's not even the best part about Paul Reed. It's that he steps up no matter when his number gets called. He could literally not play for 10 or 15 games before this and then get thrown in, and he is going to give 110%. And the Detroit team saw that, the fans saw that, everybody recognized it. Pistons fans have been begging for more Paul Reed minutes in this series against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And when Paul Reed was in, the Pistons went on a 25-8 run and basically brought the game back from the dead. And what happened next was not just a comeback. It was pretty much annihilation by the Pistons. The Pistons defense all of a sudden looked like the Pistons defense that we've seen all year. The Magic, everybody knows their shooting went unbelievably cold. One field goal in the fourth quarter, and I think like 19 points in the entire second half. And his box score from that second half doesn't really stand out to you at all, but his plus minus is where the story is told. He had a team high plus 11 box plus minus to end the game. It doesn't get more cut and dry than that. It doesn't get more obvious that he was the spark plug. But going back to that game 6, when the final buzzer sounded, the Detroit Pistons had won 93-79. They had clawed their way back from a 24-point deficit and forced a Game 7. And again, with Game 7 being at home, with all the momentum that they got from that game, the Orlando Magic, their team, their fans, looked like they wanted to throw up after that game. And so before Game 7 even started, personally for me, call me confident, call me cocky, I felt like the series had already been decided at that point. And I ended up being right, and the Pistons won in 7. And so after that first round, the Detroit Pistons are now tied 2-2 with the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second round of the playoffs. But the real story of that round 1 wasn't Paolo Banchero's offensive struggles, or Jamal Mosley's bad coaching, or Tobias Harris stepping up, or Jalen Duren struggling, or Cade Cunningham's fourth quarter heroics. It was B-Ball Paul all along. But he had done more than just saved a single game. He, on his own, rewrote the Pistons' playoff story this year, taking them from a team with an incredibly disappointing round 1 exit to a team that can possibly make the conference finals this year. And this game wasn't a fluke, because he is doing it again. In Game 3 against the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second round, the Pistons saw themselves in a similar position, down big in the second half. And JB Bickerstaff said, F it, I'm throwing you back out there. And Paul Reed did the same thing again. He played in a short burst in that second half. He scored 11 again on perfect shooting. He basically matched Jalen Duren's stat totals for the entire night in about a third of the minutes. And again, he had a team high plus minus of plus 11. Now, the Pistons weren't able to win that game, unfortunately, but the fact that he was able to come in and the Pistons were able to come back and tie the game up after being down big shows that this wasn't just a one-off, and that this guy's effects, his hustle, it really does something for the team. In sports, we're always drawn to superstars. Throughout these entire playoffs, I'm sure you've heard a plethora of stories about Shea egregious foul baiter, and Jalen Brunson and his big forehead, LeBron James and how he's old as dirt. But every now and again, the script gets flipped, and I think it's important to point out when those things happen, to give guys who would never get the recognition, would never get the attention. I think it's important to give them their flowers and draw some attention to them and really highlight the impact that they have on their teams. And B-Ball Paul is one of those guys. Paul Reed was never supposed to be the hero. He was a bench warmer. You would have thought that Cade Cunningham or Jalen Duren or even Tobias Harris or Asar Thompson would be the hero for the Detroit Pistons. But on a night where the team looked like they were dead in the water, it was a guy that nobody expected to bring them back from the brink of death. Sometimes the biggest impact can come from the most unexpected places. But let me know what you guys think about this video in the comments down below. Are you a B-Ball Paul lover now? Did you not know anything about B-Ball Paul? And if you didn't, and you watched this video, go out there and watch some B-Ball Paul highlights. You will not be disappointed. And also, again, if you guys made it this far, first of all, thank you guys so much for watching the whole video. But second of all, you guys made it to the end of the video. You obviously enjoyed it, so make sure to smash that like button on your way out. And again, if you guys want to stick around, join my community, hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you. And lastly, if you guys want to see any more content from me, YouTube actually thinks that this video right here would be best for you to watch next. So once this video is done, once it's wrapped up, make sure to click on that and you can see another piece of great NBA content that I'm sure you're going to love. But that's really all I got for today, guys. So as always, peace and love.